Hey, Christy Renee here with Mind Rewire and Christy Renee Healing Ministries. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what I did this last week, working in Las Vegas on Freemont Street area for a concert series. I don't know what you'd call it. It was called the Holo something. It was a bunch of bands anyway, a lot of Hawaiian kind of reggae music. Um, and I went down to help a chef that I know, so I was just cooking and participating in that manner. And what I noticed, right, I'm trying to stay coherent being in this place in Vegas, like, right, think where I'm at. And it was so bizarre to me to see the level of homelessness. First of all, I've been to Vegas many times and I didn't think it was quite as bad as what I was seeing this time. It was bad. It was crazy bad. And you couldn't walk outside at certain times without being approached or, um, I, I mean, it was crazy to watch. So my first thing was, just feeling so bad for these people. And I kept going into my heart and talking to my spirit and asking to be shown, show me why this is, show me what this is. People don't really choose this, right? Coming into this iteration of life and choosing, and possibly, I guess if it works that way, that's what we do. So you have to respect that, even through the pain that you watch them going through. You have to respect what they're doing. And from a spiritual standpoint, I found that super interesting. So I started approaching them with respect instead of sorrow. So I'm respecting them for what they've chosen, and when I'd walk past them, I would do so out of respect and try and just be in my spirit state and just allow love to flow through me. And that was pretty much it. We were feeding people, so you'll think Las Vegas. Look around you. There's hotels and there's food everywhere, but not for them. And it was so interesting to me. Whether they choose to go get it or don't choose to go get it, I suppose, is one thing. And so to walk up to somebody and just offer them food, sometimes they find that, I guess, disrespectful. I never had anybody say no to me, but we were making sandwiches and different kinds of foods that were easy to share and pass around. And at some point, I guess, and this is why they say don't feed them. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like you're throwing this stuff away, leftovers. You're throwing the leftovers away. Don't feed them. And I was like, how do you not feed them? So the last day we were there was a woman actually came into our area, into our little tented area, and it was secured. Supposedly, we had security guards, young kids, security guards, who were, running people off when they came into the area that we were working in and that kind of stuff. And this one lady walked in and nobody was paying attention at this point because it was the last day. And she walked in and she goes, I hear you have sandwiches. And I was like, and I just kind of stood there for a second because it was like 9:30. I'd been there since 6-7 in the morning and it was already 9:30. I was just tired. And I stood there for a second. I was trying to think what I had left and my brain was just scattered. And I said, give me 5 minutes. And so I took off back towards the service area and got a sandwich because I had just made some earlier that day, so I knew there was some still in there. Went into the back room and there was 2 grocery bags, which I thought was funny because we hadn't bought groceries really at a grocery store. Everything had come from Cisco or one of those kind of places, Restaurant Depot, that kind of stuff. And so, but there was 2 plastic bags laying back there, so I picked them up and looked around on the shelves, and there was still boxes of bagels and bread and jars of honey and all kinds of stuff sitting there. So I just started throwing it into these bags, little individual cups of cereal, those kind of things like Kellogg's, whatever. And so I'm just throwing them, filled up both of these bags full of stuff. And then I set her sandwich on top because that's what she had asked for. And in the back of my mind, I'm hearing Yeshua saying, ask and you shall receive. And I was like, oh, right. And the verses, the texts that talk about if you feed the least of these, you feed me kind of idea. And I'm hearing this, I'm feeling it, and I'm just like, wow, okay. My last day there, having handed lots of food to lots of these people. But she walked up and asked. And I was like, okay. So I go back towards the tent to give her these bags, and she was gone. And I looked over, my son was with me. I looked over, and the security guard was there, and they both pointed up the alley and said she walked away because her boyfriend had apparently been with her. I didn't even see him. And he was getting kind of antsy, so they took off down the alley. And Brandon, my son, says, I think she lives down there. So I looked down the alley and I saw a box moving way down at the other end, kind of up on a staircase. And I started walking down that way, and then he yelled at me. He goes, hey, wait, I'll come with you. So he was walking down there with me, and we get up to the thing, and I stop, and I tried to look underneath it. And there's a black man sitting on the outside, and then she was on the inside, and she crawled back out. And I was trying to make sure it was the right people before I approached them. So the girl that had asked for the sandwich was white, right? So, and I'm not trying to be racist. I honestly am not. I could care less what color they were. But I wanted to make sure it was the lady who had originally approached me. And so she crawled back out, and she looked at me and she goes, are you serious? And I was like, well, I have your sandwich, but there was some other stuff back there too. So I got you some other stuff. And she just looked at me, and as she was reaching for the bag, she goes, I love you. And I heard her voice, but I recognized it was spirit talking. And I immediately said back to her, I love you too. And I was so blown away and so heartfelt. It was so inwardly emotional to me. And as she reached for the bags, just touching her skin and feeling her as a person, I recognized her as myself. When you're feeding them, especially if they've asked, right? If they've knocked, asked, and they're seeking, and you're open, you're receptive to the giving part of it, it's amazing how you suddenly see what's in front of you. And that, the idea that we're all one becomes full focus. Whether she chose this iteration to be homeless or not, and to go through whatever she's going through is whatever. That was me standing there. And it was the Christ in all of us standing there. And it was the cosmic energy of what we all are standing there. And it became so relevant. As I stood there staring at her and watching her, I was just like, wow. I kind of told her what was in the bags, and her sandwich was on top. And she was just like, oh my gosh, thank you. So grateful and receptive to the bags that probably didn't last them, 48 hours kind of idea. But there was something to seeing myself in her, and there was something to recognizing her as the energy of consciousness, which they are. They're no different than us. I was blown away and amazed, looking at people different through a different lens, and not through the lens of your brain of what you've been taught and what you've been told, but through the lens of spirit, and being able to just respect, right? Love, and give when asked. It was an amazing thing for me. That made the whole trip. The whole trip was kind of rough. It was a hard week working. We were working a lot, but that made the whole trip worthwhile to me. I would ask, if this blesses you, please share it, like, subscribe to the channel, and look at people through the eyes of your spirit. Don't use the lens of your own brain and things you've been taught and what you're hearing and what you're seeing. Use the lens of spirit to look, and you will see everything differently. I bless you.